In the process, there was a lot of resurfacing of old materials where Blake Lively's vibes were bad. This is why I stress the importance that it doesn't matter if Blake Lively's vibes are bad. It doesn't matter if Blake Lively did a tone-deaf marketing campaign for the movie. Ultimately, what matters is the veracity of her complaints. Okay? All right. There's some more Justin Baldoni revelations. Justin Baldoni is on the attack. And after that, we're going to get to the Adrian Dittman saga as well. Fear not. Okay? Don't worry. We're going to do that as well. But let's do Justin Baldoni, Blake Lively drama for a second while I go pee really quickly.
The legal battle involving the co-stars of It Ends With Us now in full swing, with 2 explosive lawsuits filed on New Year's Eve.
I would beg her to leave him.
Justin Baldoni suing the New York Times for an article reporting Blake Lively's claims that he directed against her during the press campaign. Baldoni's lawsuit calling the article rife with inaccuracies, misrepresentations, and omissions, relying on Lively's, quote, self-serving narrative, and showing examples of text messages that the lawsuit says were misleadingly edited by Lively and knowingly published by the Times, such as removing an emoji that would indicate a comment was sarcastic, which the lawsuit calls a calculated distortion.
They allege that the Times cherry-picked and decided to take snippets of negative things, negative text messages out of context and put them in their article, which ended up making Baldoni and others look bad.
The New York Times says it plans to vigorously defend against the lawsuit. Meanwhile, Blake Lively filing her lawsuit against Baldoni and his production company, as well as the PR team they hired in a New York federal court. The suit, echoing claims laid out in Lively's earlier bombshell complaint, alleges Baldoni and the film's lead producer engaged on set.
It's gonna be perfect.
Okay.
And then the lawsuit says Baldoni and his production company, Wayfair, and Mr. Baldoni directed their PR team to actively engage in their retaliatory social manipulation campaign. An attorney for Baldoni and other defendants has called Lively's allegations categorically false. Baldoni's talent agency, WME, told NBC News they dropped him as a client in the wake of Lively's complaint, and his podcast co-host announced her departure from the show. The legal drama surrounding It Ends With Us only just beginning.
All right, Chloe, so how is Lively now responding to this new lawsuit from Baldoni?
So her team says that nothing in her original civil rights complaint and now her federal suit changes in the wake of Baldoni suing the New York Times. But it is interesting, as you heard Danny Savalos say in the piece, he is suing the Times. He's not suing Lively. Now, he still could potentially do that. And will this ever see the light of day in a courtroom? Potentially, but it's a long road to get there. And as you know, it's a very uphill battle. We were talking about that earlier this morning to go up against the New York Times. So you could imagine they said that they're going to vigorously fight these claims.
Yeah, it's going to get nasty, it looks like, right? All right, Chloe, thank you.
Hey, thanks for watching. Don't miss the Today Show every weekday at 11 a.m. Eastern.
There's a lot to get to in this half an hour, and we're going to start with the legal battle we've been paying a close eye on. This is between former co-stars Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni.
Yeah, their film, It Ends With Us, made more than $350 million worldwide. But the actors say behind the scenes, there was anything but movie magic. And now Baldoni's attorney speaking out about his client's allegations.
He sat down exclusively with NBC's Liz Kreutz, who joins us now. Liz, what's he saying?
Hey, guys, good morning. Well, Justin Baldoni's attorney, Brian Friedman, tells me they're not done taking legal action following their lawsuit against the New York Times, adding that he plans to release even more text messages between the co-stars. Friedman insists the truth is in those documents and that Blake Lively is the one who used her power and influence to take control of the film. Lively's team, though, they're saying they're going to defend her accusations in court.
For the first time, the lawyer for Justin Baldoni is speaking out, saying the actor's libel suit against the New York Times will not be the last lawsuit in his client's legal battle with co-star Blake Lively.
Do you plan to sue Blake Lively?
Absolutely.
You will?
Yes.
And what will you allege in that suit?
Well, we're working on it now.
Brian Friedman firing back at Lively's bombshell lawsuit, alleging she was subjected to on the set of the film It Ends With Us, which Baldoni also directed.
Promise me.
In the more than 90-page federal complaint against Baldoni, his production company, and the PR team they hired, Lively says she was the target of a social media retaliation for speaking out about what she calls on set. Baldoni's...
Yeah, I don't understand how you could sue the New York Times for simply posting text messages that were revealed in court proceedings to claim that this is a smear. I don't think that that's how that works. You can't, first of all, news publications get sued for defamation all the time. Okay? Just so you understand. This is a very common thing that happens. What I think is like, what I think is weird about that is that they edited them. They claiming they altered the text messages on purpose to make it look bad. They did slightly edit the text. They removed an emoji that would otherwise make the comments seem sarcastic, not defending. Okay. I mean, sure, maybe. Oh, he knows it won't go through. He wants the media to back on his side because they're not going to go through and compare each filing. They took one emoji out. I think that's crazy. Like that's a crazy line for defamation. But we'll see. What is the emoji that they took out in the original one? It's incumbent on the New York Times to fact check what they published, though, right? Yes, of course it is. And I'm certain that they did. The comments he made with or without the emoji was highly distressing anyways. Yeah, what emoji was it and what? Hasan, you have no idea what you're talking about. They removed all text that gave context to the conversation in the original complaint. The complaint ruined about 9 people's careers. The emoji is a single example, bro. They took way more out of context. It was an upside down smile emoji. I feel like the Justin Baldoni side here is grasping at straws.
His lawyer denying those allegations.
Was paying to bring down Blake Lively?
100% no. You know, Justin Baldoni from the get-go said, I don't want to do anything negative toward her. I don't want to hurt her.
The New York Times was the first to report on a separate civil rights complaint Lively filed, which included text messages and emails between PR experts that allegedly suggest she was the target of. In response, Baldoni and 9 other plaintiffs are suing the paper for $250 million, alleging the article relied on Lively's self-serving narrative, contending a number of those messages were taken out of context or excluded. Among the claims being disputed, Lively's allegation that Baldoni would enter her trailer uninvited while she was undressed, including when she was breastfeeding. A text exchange in Baldoni's lawsuit appears to show Lively inviting Baldoni to go over lines in her trailer while pumping.
Justin Baldoni has built his brand and is known for supporting women, believing women. So why in this case should people not believe Blake Lively?
I'm not asking anyone to not believe anyone. I am more than willing to take every single text message that exists out there, lay them out, put them on a website for the world to see. Have them see the truth and determine the truth for themselves.
In a statement, the Times says they stand by their reporting and plan to vigorously defend against the lawsuit, while a lawyer for the actress said nothing in this lawsuit changes anything about the claims in Lively's complaints.
Yeah, that's the main part here, which is that, like, Blake Lively made some pretty solid complaints against Justin Baldoni. Okay? In the process, there was a lot of resurfacing of old materials where Blake Lively's vibes were bad. This is why I stress the importance that it doesn't matter if Blake Lively's vibes are bad. It doesn't matter if Blake Lively did a tone-deaf marketing campaign for the movie. Ultimately, what matters is the veracity of her complaints. Okay? Because these two things are not on the same playing field. Now, of course, as Radfems came down my throat and said I was a supercharged misogynistic asshole, I kept reiterating the point that Blake Lively does not need to be a perfect victim when she has been... Wait, why? They came from my throat. Sorry. Almost every instance in her complaint was disputed and proved long in his lawsuit. It's not looking good for her once they go after her. I'll say it again. It was more than a single emoji. The emoji is just funny. Almost every instance of her complaint was disputed and proved wrong in the lawsuit. Okay. I need to explain something. Lawyers are, this is something that I talk about all the time. Lawyers are debate. Okay. If you look to just the accusations being made, that is written out by lawyers, the complaints being made, written out by lawyers, without other circumstances that lend credibility to the accusations, you will just end up picking whichever side you had already agreed with. Okay? My assessment of Blake Lively's initial complaints do not simply stem from Blake Lively's initial complaints. It's also packaged around the fact that she was backed by SAG-AFTRA and virtually every single other person that was on the set. Okay? That lends credence to Blake Lively's accusations, as opposed to whatever the counterclaims are from the legal team of Justin Baldoni. It's not simply just Blake Lively's accusations being presented in in civil litigation. There has to be additional points of evidence, or at least like some kind of complementary information. Evidence makes no difference. This is really just debate purgatory and nothing more. Yeah, I mean, for lawyers, yeah, it is just debate purgatory. That's just how it works. I mean, I'm just joking when I say it's debate purgatory. Hasan, this is not the right take, lol. You are looking at one side of this and missing a bigger picture outlook here. Justin's lawsuit has a lot more text than the one we're discussing. I'm not looking at just the text messages. There were text messages from Baldoni's team, even confirmed complaints that Lively made. That's the other part of this as well. The main part of Blake's legal complaint is that she took these concerns to the studio at the time they were happening, and the studio and Baldoni agreed to updated conditions around filming, and then they agreed to not retaliate, which they clearly did. So Baldoni had already conceded to the points in her original complaint in private. Let's continue.
You're denying a smear campaign, but are you acknowledging that there may have been some behavior on set that could have made some of the cast, including Blake Lively, uncomfortable?
I think there's some behavior always that can make people uncomfortable, and I don't think anybody has the intention to do that. The question really in this case is, does it rise to the level of sexual harassment?
Lively did not respond to our request for comment, but as previously said, I hope that my legal action helps pull back the curtain on these sinister retaliatory tactics to harm people who speak up about misconduct.
So, Liz, Baldoni's lawsuit also mentions this interaction he says that he had with Lively's husband, Ryan Reynolds, of course. What did he say in that?
Yeah, Laura, so in that lawsuit against the New York Times, Baldoni says Lively's husband, Ryan Reynolds, aggressively berated him during a meeting at their New York apartment, accusing him of fat-shaming his wife. That's a claim Baldoni denies. Reynolds and Lively have not responded to that allegation about that meeting. Meantime, Lively is seeking compensation for what she says have been lost wages and mental pain. She says she suffered throughout all of this. Guys, Laura.
All right, Liz Kreutz.
Yeah, I think the least, the accusation that holds the least amount of weight in my assessment from the Blake Lively side is the claim that her hair care products suffered as a consequence of these smears. That's the only thing that I did not give credence to from her side, which I'm sure is, you know, still probably the absolute worst thing I could have done against feminism. Okay. Also, don't joke about Sesh. Sesh is a beacon of journalistic integrity. Okay. We watched her last video on the Blake Lively, Justin Baldoni coverage, and I was shocked at the accuracy in her reporting. Okay.
Guys, today we are going to be breaking down the Justin Baldoni suit against the New York Times. It is an 87-page complaint with a lot of text messages. This is not making Blake Lively look very good, as a lot of people are criticizing her and her team, accusing them of editing these text messages that were in her complaint. This situation just honestly keeps on getting messier every single day. I swear there's something new in relation to the situation, and we're going to break down the complaint, like I said, because it is a lot. And honestly, it is changing a lot of people's minds about this whole thing. Justin Baldoni is currently suing the New York Times. His lawyer has hinted that there may be more coming, and maybe by the time I post this, there's already another one. But right now, we are strictly talking about the 87-page complaint filed against the New York Times. Now, Justin is not the only one that is suing the New York Times. His lawyer, on behalf of Justin and 9 others, are suing for libel, false light invasion of privacy, promissory fraud, and breach of implied and fact contract. And they are demanding jury trial. And what they are saying in this complaint is that Blake never wanted to sue Justin or anyone involved in the situation.
You should say the name of this beacon of good journalism again so I can note it. It's called Sesh.
Accusing her of only trying to repair her public image and avoid going any further into the legal process. They wrote, Lively chose not to file a lawsuit against Baldoni, Wayfarer, or any of the plaintiffs.
Here's one of my issues. When Ryan Reynolds came after Justin during a meeting, he yelled at him for calling her fat, but not about him sexually harassing her. Where's the logic? I mean, I think that might have been the straw that broke the camel's back. Also, that was a complaint throughout the entire process. So I don't think that explains anything. I don't think that proves anything, really.
Voice that spared her.
Other than the fact that you're just simply stating that she didn't feel uncomfortable at all on set, and she's lying about feeling uncomfortable.
From the scrutiny of the discovery process, including answering questions under oath and producing her communications, this decision was no accident. First, her administrative complaint is rife with blatant falsehoods and egregious misrepresentations that would have subjected her to dismissal if not sanctions. Second, pursuing formal legal action would have derailed her true objective, an orchestrated campaign to rehabilitate her public image. Instead, Lively filed a request for a right to sue letter with the California Civil Rights Department, CRD. A procedural formality that does not require pleadings, remains confidential unless leaked as it was here, and crucially, does not subject the complaint to discovery. While such a letter can precede a lawsuit, it is clear that litigation was never her ultimate goal. Her real intention was to weaponize the appearance of legitimacy conferred by a numbered legal document to launch salacious, headline-grabbing allegations and reshape her public persona at the expense of the plaintiffs. Lively found willing allies at the New York Times.
Dude, this is so funny. Okay. Jack Schlossberg faces backlash after trolling the media by claiming he's Justin Baldoni's new lawyer. Like, why do you feel comfortable making that joke? Dude, okay, listen. Guys, I'm noticing something here. Okay? I'm noticing a thing here. But it feels to me, don't kill me for this, but it feels to me like celebrity-related incidents make people a little crazy with the way that they operate. Like, Jack Schlossberg is a crazy guy. I mean, this is typical of him. He does this shit for everything. But I have noticed that whenever news coverage and also like social justice related content intersects with the field of celebrity gossip and tea, it is an explosive combination where people don't have the capacity to be normal, it seems like. I don't know. They take it a little too far. Okay? That's all I'm saying. Is this satire? Terrible take. If you can't tell this is satire, you need to go offline. Thank you. Schlossberg gloating on Instagram at how many outlets he deceived with this stupid bit. I feel that if any other political correspondent without his background falsely injected themselves in the story and bragged about it, they'd be reprimanded and probably fired. They should fire, not fire. Firing is not enough. They should throw him into a fire. They should, yeah. It's Girly Pop Nation. What else did you expect? This pop culture. I just once again am urging Girly Pop Nation to have this kind of smoke for Israel. Please, please. If you had this kind of smoke for Israel, I feel like the apartheid would end tomorrow. I don't know why. If we could get white women and the rad femmes, like maybe we just gotta like, you know, put together some celebrity compilations about like the bad ones that are misogynistic being pro-Israel or something. We need them on board. I swear to God. This is not being canceled. This is fucking around and finding out. I mean, he's not being canceled. There's no real. I never said he's being canceled. I don't think that that's a real concept to begin with. If that was a real concept, that would have been killed already a million times over. I'm just saying that I think the reaction to it is a little severe, and it's not even a person that I like personally. I'm not a fan of Jack Schlossberg. I think he's like a kooky guy. Jack Schlossberg's tweet, it just kind of proved that a lot of men have a threshold of sexual violence they're okay with. Like, why do you feel comfortable making that joke? Let's unpack that. The way someone here had Jack Schlossberg being canceled in their 2025 prediction list, and it happened like the first day of the year. Okay, I'm just saying, just in 2025, let's tweak the dials a little bit. Okay, let's tweak the dial a little bit away from this kind of stuff. Or like, you can have this level of passion. You can have this level of passion for all of the naysayers. Okay, all of the people who are not taking this story seriously with the seriousness that it deserves. Okay, and just maybe have a little bit of that smoke for like actual systemic violence. You know, like a lot worse stuff happening in general. This isn't to say you can't be upset about Justin Baldoni, okay? You have every right to do so, okay? I'm just simply noticing that there's just something that I've seen. I don't know. That's all I've seen.
Times, which uncritically complaint as fact and disregarded the plaintiff's emphatic objections. Without even waiting for the response deadline of noon Eastern Standard Time on December 21st, 2024, the Times rushed to publish its inflammatory article.
You're saying people shouldn't have moral outrage for celeb drama exclusively, which doesn't take much thought or effort? I mean, it's also, they're going to pull up your bald takes. They're going to find that you're a baldist. I think it's more emblematic of a larger issue. No one actually cares about the specifics here. Yeah, no, that is the point that I'm making. The point that I'm making is that we exist under a patriarchal society, and women experience a tremendous amount of violence and retaliation for speaking out against that violence under patriarchal constructs. Having said that, however, most of the people recognize that they can't do anything about systemic change. They can't do anything about the systems that reinforce this violence, so they hyper-focus on the celebrity aspect of it all, and also sometimes in the process develop unhealthy parasocial relationships with said celebrities, because celebrities have the capability, being incredibly powerful and incredibly wealthy, and utilizing PR to present themselves a certain way, okay? So because of this, most people look, and I've noticed this as someone who is also, I've noticed as someone who's, you know, a Z-list celebrity, right? Like literally the bottom of the barrel, scum, right? A lot of people look to someone like Jason Momoa or someone like Ryan Reynolds and go, well, those guys are always perfect in public, and that's real, and that's truthful, and that's honest. What they are giving me is actually not this like, not this carefully manicured representation of what they truly are, but instead who they actually are. So why aren't other celebrities like that? Celebrities that I tune into and watch on a daily basis, such as Hasan Piker, who is a Z-lister and is live for 8 to 10 hours a day, oftentimes in direct contest. And people just set the standard at that, okay? People set the standard at like what Omega celebrities present themselves as, okay? And then get upset at random people who don't have this carefully crafted, carefully manicured, PR-backed way of representing themselves, and get really, really mad and really invested in tackling those people. Okay? We should stick to criticizing the power structure of patriarchy instead of expecting women to be perfect advocates for everything. No one has perfect politics. Wait, what? I'm not expecting anyone to be perfect. I'm not expecting Blake Lively to be perfect either. But my point is, I think, I don't know. Maybe it's just me, and I don't, at the end of the day, I just can't get myself to care too much about stuff like this. Even though there is systemic analysis to be brought forth from this conversation, I feel like when I see people like getting mad at like fucking what's the random Kennedy guy who like very clearly is TikToking himself, going through it on a daily fucking basis, and treating him as like a enemy that needs to be taken out. I feel like you're not being super serious, and you're just kind of behaving like Stan Twitter. How come you can talk about famous female streamers being sexually harassed but not Hollywood celebrities? That's really funny to say, especially considering that I'm quite literally doing that. You're actually representing the argument that I made. Like, something that breaks people's brains is this is what I'm talking about. I have talked about it, and I will continue covering stuff like that. And I think that there is a lot of systemic critique that you can engage with in the process. And I do it all the time. But the very fact that you took what I was saying into took what I was saying and turned it into, you just don't want female celebrities to be covered when they get sexually harassed, is what I mean. There's something that happens with celebrities. There's something that happens with celebrities where people just like kind of shut things off and just refuse to comprehend the words that are coming out. Them saying you don't have the same smoke for Manosphere podcasters. Yeah, exactly.
We can bury anyone.
It's weird. That's like a weird bad faith interpretation of what I'm, not even something that I've said.
At a Hollywood smear machine at 10:11 a.m., nearly 2 hours early. This brazen disregard for journalistic integrity and fairness resulted in an article rife with inaccuracies, misrepresentations, and omissions. I will add, though, that Blake has now sued Justin Baldoni for emotional distress and mental anguish, and in his complaint, they were saying that legal action was not her goal, and well, she is taking it there now. But we are talking about his complaint today, and the complaint is calling out the New York Times, saying that they relied on cherry-picked and altered communications stripped of necessary context and deliberately spliced to mislead. Meaning those texts in Blake's complaint, well, Justin's team is claiming they were altered and used incorrectly, and the Times reporting on them was wrong. And we're going to get into some examples of this because it comes up later in the complaint, but in the complaint we are also seeing that Justin and his team are trying to say that they had no intention.
I've seen self-proclaimed Radlib femcel separatists seethe over your coverage over this. Yeah, that's partially what I'm talking about. I sometimes wonder these days if people are arguing in bad faith or really just that fucking stupid. I think there's a bit of both. I think there are people who just like it's comical, and most normal people are not like this, but it doesn't matter. There's plenty of abnormal people that pop off online. But I saw that one TikTok that went viral talking about how I'm like a ultra misogynist or something like that. And the very same TikTok, the immediate TikTok afterwards was that person saying they're not a leftist at all. They're just simply anti-man. And I normally would never cover something like this, and I'm not, and I never did on stream, and I won't cover it because it's better to ignore. It's like a person going through a mental health episode. You know what I mean? What am I supposed to do? It's like, it's ridiculous. I mean, it's understandable why someone would develop an anti-man approach, okay? I'm not even discounting that. I'm just saying that like me covering that and laughing about it would then draw so much more ire from other people and would say like, oh, Hasan is undermining someone who's trying to do 4B movement style politics here in the United States of America. It's like, good luck to you guys. You know, if it works, it works. All right. But if that's the rudder, that's the moral rudder that's like guiding you, then you're probably not going to get a lot across. Like, and it's not even, I'm not even saying that as like a harmed man. Oh, I'm a meninist. I'm so sad. Misinterests are so scary. Nothing like that. I get it. I get why you would fucking hate men. Okay? I understand it. And you can hate me too. But it's like weird when you make that your only political output. That's all I'm saying. And you do it by way of focusing on Celebrity Tea and the political commentary coverage on Celebrity Tea without even mentioning my actual systemic critique in the process and undermining my coverage. Let's continue.
Of destroying or burying Blake's reputation, showing messages from their group chat, one where Justin says, "How can we say somehow that we are not doing any of this? It looks like we are trying to take her down." His PR crisis manager texts back and says they are doing all this themselves and it's really obvious. Justin in another text is seen saying, "Things I'm more worried about is that we are planting these stories, which is not true, obviously." There is also a message sent in his crisis management group chat where they send a link where Sony was seen praising Blake and Jamie Heath responded and said, "So glad Blake was praised. Let her get a win. It would be nice to have a Sony executive praise Justin." Then we get full screenshots of the message that was discussed in Blake's complaint that the New York Times reported on. In the New York Times article, they wrote, on August 16th, Miss Nathan shared the Daily Mail article headlined, "Is Blake Lively set to be canceled?" with reference to hard to watch videos and a tone-deaf promotional Q&A. "Wow, you really outdid yourself with this piece," Miss Abel responded. "That's why you hired me, right?" Miss Nathan replied, "I'm the best." In Blake's complaint, we see this text exchange where the Daily Mail article is sent, and then Jennifer Abel texts Melissa Nathan saying, "Wow," and then Jennifer Abel says, "You really outdid yourself with this piece." In the complaint from Justin's lawyer, they say, "The article is predicated on Lively's CRD complaint, which references text exchanges between Nathan and Abel as reported evidence that Nathan planted a negative story in the Daily Mail titled, 'Is Blake Lively set to be canceled?' Lively's portrayal is categorically false, misleading, and devoid of factual basis, yet knowingly endorsed by the Times, which claim to have reviewed thousands of pages of text messages and emails. The smear campaign hinges on an August 16th text exchange in which Nathan allegedly shared a link to this article with Abel. The text exchange shows Abel responding, 'Wow,' followed by 'You really outdid yourself with this one,' to which Nathan allegedly replied, 'That's why you hired me, right? I'm the best.' These messages constitute the entirety of the purported evidence underlying the allegation of a smear campaign orchestrated on behalf of Baldoni. And the text is shown in full, allegedly, where they sent this article and then Jen says, wow, you really outdid yourself with this piece, and sends this upside down emoji. And the complaint claims the emoji.
Wait, there is no way this is like the pivotal. There's no way that this is like the pivotal, damning, smoking gun evidence in the Justin Baldoni countersuit. God damn. Tampering with evidence? No, dude. I don't think that's tampering with evidence. That's crazy.
Emoji was important missing context, saying further evidence of the Times' complicity arises from its apparent endorsement of the criminal altercation of these text messages by Lively. After Nathan forwarded a screenshot of the article link, Abel responded with, you really outdid yourself with this piece, upside down.
This is not doctoring, chat. There's a million different reasons for why the emoji itself did not make its way through the New York Times coverage. One could be aesthetic choices because the emoji itself doesn't actually convey anything other than that. But secondly, it could have literally not been, because it's an emoji, it could have been a formatting issue in terms of like the text messages that they did end up getting. Like it could have been a formatting issue where it didn't show up.
Down emoji, adding an upside down smile emoji to indicate the sarcastic nature of her message. The upside down smile emoji is commonly used to convey irony, sarcasm, joking, or a sense of goofiness or silliness. They further try to prove how they did not play a part in a takedown for Blake Lively and showed them talking about how she took down her own reputation with more screenshots from the crisis management group chat where someone said, we didn't tell Jed to go after the idea that her promo was inappropriate. That happened organically. This is a movie about DV that they wore florals to. This is a crazy way to market this movie. Another text says, like, come on, we had nothing to do with that. There was also text of Justin wanting to know if this...
I feel a little vindicated here on that front. I didn't defend her on that, and I thought that was kind of silly. And everybody again jumped on my throat. And I know that's something that people get really touchy about and say Blake Lively had no power to make editorial decisions in this process. Is the studio that, and like she's a little baby? She's not. Okay. But it still doesn't matter because what she said in the complaint is completely irrelevant to the way that she marketed the movie.
Blake takedown was them or not, as he texted Melissa and Nathan asking if this Perez Hilton video had anything to do with them. He said, this is not us, correct? Assuming this guy we brought in would never do this. And Melissa and Nathan said none of us would ever do this, goes on to say that nobody is paying attention to Perez Hilton these days, and says that it's organic, she's blown herself up by her own actions. Though I will say they aren't entirely squeaky clean here, as Jennifer Abel, Justin's publicist, in an alleged statement addressing Blake's complaint, seemed to admit that they did protect Justin against Blake Lively in the event that her HR complaints became a bigger story, but that they didn't have to use those efforts.
That's so funny. That's it. That's the whole point for me, is the fact that they knew that there were HR complaints being made, which they also personally recognized, and they literally were gearing up to do a coordinated, full-throated smear initiative against Blake Lively. And now they're just saying, oh no, this all came through organically. Now in the court filings, it'll show up if it's organic or not. Like that one Norwegian actress, is she an independent actor who just seems to see blood in the water and like deploys tactical videos to be like, look how weird and bad this person is? Or are they directly working in concert with other Daily Mail and New York Post style outlets like dish rags like that? Because the interesting aspect of this that I lasered in on was the Reddit and Twitter manipulation in concert with a couple key legacy publishers. Okay. And they didn't even have to be like NBC or anything, especially because NBC and the like are going to have better journalists overall that aren't interested in immediately going on smear mode. And they're going to exercise a little bit more critical thinking, for example. So, but you can get a lot done with like a couple media articles placed in a sea of social media onslaught, because social media has no boundaries whatsoever. There's no There's no checks and balances. Whereas legacy publishers still have like some semblance of editorial interest and control.
As she wrote, no negative press was ever facilitated, no social combat plan, although we were prepared for it, as it's our job to be ready for.
Streamer says all the time that one of America's main experts is pop culture. We're covering a story that boils down to workplace sexual harassment. If this is what a powerful woman with expansive resources and a wide support network is facing, reflect on what it means for those who don't. No, that's actually precisely what my point was as well initially when I covered it, which is that even powerful celebrities, whenever, and Blake Lively certainly is a powerful celebrity, okay, married to one of the most powerful celebrities in Hollywood, even the fact that powerful celebrities with money and PR and the capacity to hire the best legal teams can be hit with the misogyny faucet as a factor that immediately brings about the interest of what I call misogyny tourists to make motion in the direction of whatever man that has been wronged in this process in their minds. Well, then, you know, it says a lot about how much play misogyny gets in general.
For any scenario, but we didn't have to implement anything because the internet was doing the work for us. Sure, we talked about it, contemplated if we needed certain things, flagged accounts that we needed to monitor, worked with a social team to help us stay on top of the narrative so we could act quickly if needed. And yes, we rejoiced and joked in the fact that fans were recognizing our client's heart and work without us having to do anything but keep our heads down and focus on positive interviews for our client. As the texts show, we sophomorically reveled and again joked privately to each other about the internet's feedback to the woman whose team was making our lives incredibly difficult over the course of the campaign. The complaint also shows group chat messages of Justin's crisis management team talking about Blake's publicist and her thinking that they were ruining her.
Blake Lively fearing for her career amid it ends with us backlash. God, I'm so over this. I'm sure Leslie thinks we placed this one as well. Yep, and same.
As someone texted a link to an article titled Blake Lively fearing for her career amid it ends with us backlash, and someone from Justin's PR management team said, God, I'm so over this. Am sure Leslie thinks we placed this one as well. And Melissa says, yep, and same. More texts later show his PR management team discussing that they have nothing to do with all of Blake's hate, saying this is crazy, she doesn't have a good reputation, all of this is organic stuff from real people making TikToks, not bots. The complaint also brings up Leslie, who is Blake Lively's publicist, once again, as they allege that she was seeding negative stories about Justin in the press about him being a predator. The complaints.
I think what's crazy about this is that they were like actively monitoring all of the negative press that she was receiving, and they most likely, again, pushed the scales, tilted the scales even slightly, okay? And very clearly had a campaign ready to go if things turned sour, knowing full well what the complaint had, knowing full well what the complaint was. No one is addressing the initial complaints. This countersuit is not even addressing the veracity of the initial complaints, and instead basically just sidesteps the initial complaints and goes after New York Times and Blake Lively for even making these complaints. Now, I need to remind you, okay, dude, okay. I need to remind you, anyone can start a lawsuit over anything. That doesn't mean that like all of the contents of said lawsuit are 100% correct, okay? Or that is always going to be a winning lawsuit.
Says the article also deliberately ignores that Lively's publicist, Leslie Sloan, of Vision PR, once backed by Harvey Weinstein, seeded stories critical of Baldoni, including that Baldoni was a predator, ahead of the film's release. Sloan did so even while Nathan attempted to cooperate in good faith. We also see messages between Justin's team and a reporter where they were inquiring on the HR complaints, and Justin's PR
reporter, source close to set, says they don't know of an investigation, but there was an intervention. We heard there were multiple HR complaints from crew and cast, starting with the first day of production. Wayfair is the studio. It's unclear if Wayfair Studios performed an investigation into the claims against themselves. Separately, we are aware there was an intervention with Justin Baldoni midway through production based on a pattern of inappropriate behavior by him towards cast and crew. Tag team says off the record, the only complaint, which is not confirmed if it was an official HR complaint, was a guy up for a gig on the crew complained the younger guy who did so because of ageism. There was an investigation and found no wrongdoing. There are no other complaints, especially no other documented HR complaints. There was not an intervention on set or with members of the crew. This would be false to allude to. Blake and Ryan had Justin and his team over for a meeting where Blake expressed all the things she was upset about. This was his team versus Blake and Ryan, more of a contentious meeting. The way it reads now reads as if it was a proper intervention with cast and crew, not true. Okay, so that she did make complaints, like directly to, thank you, I just sent him, I'll keep you posted. What's the email for Wayfair? I need legal to reach
Our management
out.
team basically said there were no HR complaints in regards to Justin and Blake. There was a guy working on the crew who complained about a younger guy getting a job and there being ageism. That was the only thing that was investigated, but there were no wrongdoings found. And they said there was not an intervention on set or with members of the crew. This would be false to allude to. Blake and Ryan had Justin and his team over for a meeting where Blake expressed all the things she was upset about. This was not Justin versus the team behind the film. It was his team versus Blake and Ryan, more of a contentious meeting. The way it reads now reads as if it was proper intervention with cast and crew, not true. We also hear the other side of the claims that Blake was shown certain inappropriate videos while on the set. In response to these allegations, the complaint calls out the New York Times for the way that they reported on this, saying the Times compounded its journalistic failures by uncritically advancing Lively's unsustained claims of harassment against Heath and Baldoni. For example, the article based on Lively's CRD complaint sensationally alleges that Mr. Heath had shown Lively a video of his naked wife, with Lively's CRD complaint even labeling the footage as, "This claim is patently absurd. The video in question was a recording of Heath's wife and baby during a home birth, a deeply personal one with no overtone. To distort this benign event into an act of misconduct."
Yo, that's still crazy. You just, what? Lively CRD complaint labeled the footage as pornography. I don't think they labeled it as pornography. They said it was graphic in nature, right? Justin Baldoni was like, no, the video in question was a recording of Heath's wife and baby during a home birth. That's weird as hell, dude. Oh, that's not better. What the hell? That's not. Not gonna lie, I don't follow celebs enough, and this video seems too in the weeds. Why are people mad at you when you seem pro Blake Lively? Why do you think? Because I am I am literally the Osama bin misogynist, okay? I am responsible for misogyny 9/11. That's why. Did you hear Ryan wrote the Nice Pool character in Deadpool and Wolverine after Baldoni? People said the demeanor and the commentary about Lady Deadpool looking good after having a wife and kid was a tip-off, especially the violent death. They said Blake thought it was porn when he first started showing her it, but it was a vid of his wife giving birth. According to Heath's wife and a baby home birth, deeply personal one with no pornographic overtone to distort this benign event. It's not a benign event, I don't think. Misconduct is outrageous and emblematic of the lengths to which Lively and her collaborators are willing to defame plaintiffs.
It's outrageous and emblematic of the lengths to which Lively and her collaborators are willing to go to defame plaintiffs. And they wrote that they also showed her this ahead of filming the birth scene in the movie, and to insinuate it any other way is just wrong. The claims of Justin...
You're weird for thinking about birthing videos disturbing. They showed it for context because they're filming a birthing scene with Blake.
And Jamie also walking into her dressing room unannounced while she was changing or breastfeeding was also combated with a text where Blake told Justin to come run lines with her while she was pumping. She texted saying, "I'm here if you want to work out our lines." The complaint also touches on the allegation that
okay, but that doesn't mean it's like you can just walk in whenever she's breastfeeding. Like that seems a little bit tricky, contextually speaking. Like that doesn't... It does feel like they're using that as like, well, we got consent, maybe not in the other circumstances, but we got consent one time. You know what I mean? It's not like, that's not how that works. You know, I don't know. I don't know the exact details, but like pumping your breast under your clothes so you can pump out breast milk for your newborn is also different than like, you know, having the puppies out with a natural breastfeeding circumstance where maybe you don't have any sort of coverage. You know what I'm saying? Like those are two different circumstances. And even if it's the same exact circumstance, even if it's still pumping fully clothed, you might be uncomfortable at a different point when Justin might have come in to the room.
Justin was using the word sexy on set, the complaint said. Likewise, the allegation that Baldoni inappropriately described Lively's character's attire as sexy is exaggerated and misleading. The text exchange between Baldoni and Lively show that Lively had insisted that her character's clothing be much sexier. When Baldoni later used the word sexy, he was just responding to her creative input, not objective.
We'll show you both ways, but stop grabbing the mic. Yeah, I don't know what happened. Sorry. Everybody needs to calm down. Everybody needs to calm down. Okay? Yes, the microphone busted for a second. It's okay. I don't know why you guys make it seem as though this is like the end of the world anytime any sort of audio issues happen. Okay? Everybody take a deep breath. We're gonna be okay. We're gonna get through this. I promise you. Okay? I'm still here.
Objectifying her personally, Lively set the tone that Baldoni heeded during the creative process. The next thing tackled.
Oh wait, she didn't go into the messages, so I was gonna keep reading it. So she talks about like the sexy outfit. Good morning. If you don't have time to listen with morning craziness, here's text. Just want to make sure okay with throwing the jacket on from yesterday morning or putting this on. I want to line up a shot and see if you can use a piece of the shoulder for the establishing shot for the old cafe we didn't get yesterday. Might not need it, but just want to cover. See you soon. It's just her shoulder, no problem. It's her body and head that it should be me. Was wondering about not having that shot, but kept it to myself. Wait, what? This isn't even like the direct back and forth.
Process. The next thing tackled in the complaint is the intimacy coordinator and the claim that Justin improvised unwanted kissing and discussed his personal intimate life on set. The complaint accuses Blake of not wanting to meet with the intimacy coordinator to plan out scenes, and that Justin met with the coordinator alone and had to relay the messages to Blake, and claim that there was no harassment, and that in talking about his personal experiences, it was only to personalize and develop their characters, and it wasn't this inappropriate thing we see.
I think it is pretty funny, though. This is a good point. A man showing a woman who has given birth multiple times a video of a birth like she hasn't lived at his peak mansplaining is I mean, it's kind of funny. Yeah.
An alleged text from Justin where he says to Blake, just hired intimacy coordinator who I love, will set you up to meet / FaceTime with her next week for intro. Blake says, I feel good. I can meet her when we start. Thank you though. Justin then texts a female producer saying, FYI, just want to tell you about this. She seems she doesn't want to meet intimacy coordinator until we start, which may mess up the workflow, but I can still meet with her, of course. The female producer he's texting said that's fine. If she doesn't want to meet her now, you'll just have to walk her through.
Just want to tell you about this. Seems she doesn't want to meet the intimacy coordinator until we start, which may mess up the workflow, but I can still meet with her, of course. That's fine. If she doesn't want to meet her now, you just have to work with her through what you and the intimacy coordinator are
thinking. The complaint goes on to talk about the contradictions in Blake Lively's CRD complaint. They wrote, despite its efforts to craft a distorted narrative, the Times fails to address a glaring contradiction in Lively's CRD complaint. After the execution of the Protections for Return to Production Agreement in November 2023, Lively herself acknowledges that the film was completed, marked, and released safely and successfully. While Wayfarer, Baldoni, and Heath disagreed with Lively's rationale for requesting the document, many of its provisions were already standard practice. They chose to comply for the sake of the film and to ensure Lively's comfort. Crucially, Lively concedes that neither Baldoni nor Heath engaged in any harassing behavior following the agreement in November 2023. Furthermore, she admits that her stated concerns were sufficiently addressed at the time. This admission directly undermines her allegations of retaliation and...
Wait, I don't get it. This implies that there were valid criticisms that she had originally made, criticisms that Justin Baldoni were aware of. Even Justin Baldoni's PR team were aware of said claims being made. This doesn't even actually turn around. And refuse the claims whatsoever. Offers no real counter to them, and simply just says, "Oh no, it's fine." Like she just said, "Okay." Like it didn't happen afterwards.
Strips her claims of credibility. Without the fabricated smear campaign narrative propping up her CRD complaint, Lively's retaliation claim collapses under its own contradictions, exposing it as yet another ploy to salvage her public image rather than pursuing any legitimate grievances. The next thing tackled in the complaint is the intimacy coordinator and the claim that Justin improvised unwanted kissing and discussed his personal intimate life on set. The complaint accuses Blake of not wanting to meet with the intimacy coordinator to plan out scenes, and that Justin met with the coordinator alone and had to relay messages to Blake, and claims that there was no harassment, and that in talking about his personal experiences, it was only to personalize and develop their characters and wasn't inappropriate. We see an alleged text from Justin where he says to Blake, "Just hired intimacy coordinator who I love. We'll set you up to meet/FaceTime with her next week for intro." Blake says, "I feel good. I can meet her when we start. Thank you though." He then texts a female producer where he says, "Just FYI," sends the screenshot of his text with Blake and says, "Just wanted to tell you about this. Seems she doesn't want to meet intimacy coordinator until we start, which may mess up the workflow, but I can still meet with her, of course. That's fine if she doesn't want to meet her now. You'll just have to walk her through turning Sony into giving her ultimate authority." We see text messages between Justin and his editors where he's talking about the fact that Blake is making her own cut of the film. He texts, "Just curious if you guys have peeked at her cut and if anything has changed." Editor number 2 says, "I have just been told that we are not permitted to look." He said, "Haha, wow, when did that happen?" As per Sony, this evening through "Wow, okay then, the editors and director isn't allowed to look at an actress's cut. Got it. Well, here we go. We will keep taking the high road." The complaint then calls out the New York Times, saying that they did not paint the real picture of what was going on with Justin and Blake at the time, saying that the real source of conflict between them was the fact that she was trying to take over the film. And in another text message, we see Justin say, "She kicked me out officially from the film now. She's finishing it all. I can't be involved. Music, sound, video effects, everything. I'll make it through somehow. Just need to feel it all." The complaint writes, "Notably absent from the Times narrative is Lively's insistence on obtaining editing privileges and demanding her own version of the film, a departure from industry standards. Even more rigorously, Lively leveraged her promotional commitments to pressure for the release of her cut. Evidence of Baldoni's efforts to accommodate Lively's demands, including a series of text exchanges with editors who were later replaced by Lively in favor of her husband's editor, underscores the extreme lengths Baldoni went to in order to preserve the film's integrity. The Times' willful omission of these critical details not only distorts the truth, but also perpetuates a false narrative that conveniently absolves Lively of her own culpability in the unraveling of professional relationships and the upheaval surrounding the film." More text messages between Justin and his editing team reveal growing frustrations and tensions surrounding Blake Lively's significant control over the movie and the editing process. One editor said, "I just hope you love, or at least stomach, the cut that is going out into the world." And he said, "Haven't seen it, can't yet." The film's marketing is then discussed, and the blame is put on Blake for how the film was promoted. We see the underlined text where an editor said, "If Blake is so determined to handle the marketing on the movie, then just let her." More screenshots reveal Justin expressing frustration over being sidelined from the marketing strategy he initially envisioned, which was focused on DV and its survivors. And they're claiming that Blake allegedly redirected the campaign away from exerted dominance over key decisions like she did in the editing process. But I will say that in Blake's complaint, she says that Sony wanted them to promote the movie in this way and provided a document that showed the talking points for the movie that they were supposed to follow, which said to kind of stray away from the DV aspect of the movie. So there's just a lot being said. They also seem to try and show that Justin wasn't promoting the movie the way that he was to be performed.
Avoid talking about the film that makes it feel sad or heavy as a story of hope. Avoid talking about the film being representative of every woman's story. There are many stories. It's just one perspective that inspired Colleen Hoover's own experiences growing up.
Said, they also seem to try and show that Justin wasn't promoting the movie the way that he was to be performative, as they include a text where he had sent his editors, the amount of women
who feel seen that is reaching people all over the world, that men are remembering their own traumas and having conversations with their partners. That's why we did this, and it worked. Still the dream team. If you think about it, we didn't even finish our director's cut because she intervened. So ideally, at some point, we could take a week and all just do it ourselves for ourselves, but that opens up a can of worms. So we will need to let this play out for a while before we pull that card, and your door will be knocked on.
Women who feel seen, that it's reaching people all over the world, that men are remembering their own traumas and having conversations with their partners. That's why we did this, and it worked. Still the dream team. We even see later in the timeline of events that Justin even wanted a % of the film to go to DV survivors. As the complaint says, Wayfair partnered with Sony to co-finance and distribute the film. That agreement included at Wayfarers and Baldoni's assistants a requirement that 1% of the film's proceeds be donated to the survivors of DV. That 1% was ultimately earmarked for the organization No More, with which Baldoni had wanted to partner as early as September 2022. When it comes to the premiere of the film, apparently Justin was asked not to come. He texted his editing team saying, "Long story, but we won't be in the same room. I was asked not to even come to premiere. I can figure it out." They later...
Dude, what the fuck? Dude, I feel like that's crazy. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I feel like that kind of makes him look worse overall. Unless you personally think that, like, the narrative that they're setting on the Justin Baldoni side is that Blake Lively is a control freak who wanted to take over the IP, basically. She had her own version. She had her own version of like what she thought was the best cut. And are we watching the same video? Show proof or you're lying? That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that Justin Baldoni's side of the story frames this as not one where there's like valid claims of workplace harassment that were made to him, but instead innocent mistakes that took place on set that were addressed, and that Blake Lively did a fingers crossed, I promise I won't actually make a bigger problem of the initial uncomfortable moments that I felt, as long as we do this release. And in that process, she took over more and more aspects. Like, she took over control over more and more aspects of the process, and basically weaponized these, I guess what Justin Baldoni would consider fake claims to basically do reputation laundering after the fact in an effort to take over the IP. That's what the argument is that they're making, right? She's planning an extended universe. I don't know. I don't know if there's like supposed to be a second movie or something, but this is also part of the reason why I like, not saying that Justin Baldoni's claims have any fucking credence as far as like Blake Lively wanting to take over control and weaponizing sexual harassment claims or anything. I'm not saying that at all. But having said that, this is the reason why I also despise covering Hollywood drama usually, because both parties oftentimes are like weird and powerful and have a litany of other issues, which then make this process, especially from the outside, a lot harder to understand, because you can point to the inadequacies of either party. So that's why I try to stick to whatever is like verifiable or whatever is like backed up by that's why I try to stick to whatever is backed up by like the actions taken in the aftermath or during the process by cast and crew. Okay, because usually it's just like fairly easy to understand. You have a person that is devoid of any sort of power whatsoever, being bullied and humiliated or sexually harassed in the workplace, and then you have a boss that does everything they can to cover it up. But in this circumstance, while the wronged party is still wronged, Blake Lively, they also have a tremendous amount of influence and also maybe even additional interests as well, which doesn't change the dynamic at all in terms of feeling, in terms of feeling uncomfortable on set, in terms of workplace harassment, things of that nature, and there is still obviously a very clear, party that was offended versus the offender. His defense is relying on a lot of misogynistic stereotypes and the fact that Blake Lively is not well liked by the general public. Yeah, because individuals are not political entities. Their celebrities makes 10x more squishy and annoying.
We're going to talk about how Blake took over the movie exactly, starting with her taking over wardrobe. In the complaint, they wrote, on or about December 31st, 2022, Lively agreed to take on the lead role of Lily Bloom. As part of the subsequent negotiations, Lively was granted an executive producer credit, a title often associated with talent of her stature. Wayfarer did not request that Lively contribute to the film in any capacity beyond her performance and this credit. Then we get into Lively taking over wardrobe. On or about May 15, 2023, principal photography of the film commenced in New Jersey. During pre-production, Lively began to assert control over aspects of the film beyond her role as an actor.
Like, I feel like this is also reasserting the same exact thing that had already taken place. It's basically alluding to a bunch of stuff that is irrelevant to the main claims being made by Blake Lively, and then focusing on her fucked vibes overall, or her interest in controlling the production, or controlling certain aspects of production, and undermining Justin Baldoni's creative control over the process, which is not the main point here. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, okay, Blake Lively's fucking annoying, I know, and also maybe somewhat of a control freak, I know. So what? Am I wrong? Maybe I'm missing something, but it just feels like it's like a smoke bomb. You know what I mean? You're just like throwing it out there to be like, look at how fucking annoying she is. Am I right? Come on. She's a control freak. She did this all because she wanted to retain all rights to the process, to the creative process. It's saying that if anyone was guilty of misconduct, is Blake Lively. Okay.
And outside the scope of her contractual entitlements. While lead actors are sometimes granted a
You're invalidating misconduct with control freak. That's the point of the lawsuit against New York Times, that Lively's evidence was doctored and edited. I feel like I'm going crazy. Y'all are so off with this. Is saying that if anyone was guilty of misconduct, is Blake Lively. You're invalidating misconduct with control freak. Dude, misconduct in terms of making the principal talent feel uncomfortable in a sexual fucking in a scene that doesn't require nudity, adding nudity to it, and like misconduct of the sexual nature is very different than one of the principal talents who has executive producer credits making creative decisions on the wardrobe that the character is going to wear. You understand that, right? There's a world of difference there. One is very commonplace in Hollywood. The other is, also commonplace, but shouldn't be allowed. And Hollywood tries to at least work against it. She was hired to be an actor and then refused intimacy coach, refused her wardrobe. Her husband rewrote the script during the strike without anyone's knowledge. And then she took over editing. It's possible that the part of the reason she was trying to wrestle control from him was because he was a disingenuous creep. Yeah. There's like levels of control that talent gets. Then she lied about the text messages in the New York Times. There's no lying about the text messages in the New York Times. The New York Times went and got the investigation. The New York Times conducted their own separate investigation into the additional lawsuit that took place between Justin Baldoni's current PR and former PR company. Y'all are biased that Blake Lively's attractiveness caused Baldoni to be a creep? What? Bro, what the fuck are you saying? What the fuck? What do you mean? Blake Lively's attractiveness caused Baldoni to be a creep? So even when Justin Baldoni was being a fucking creep, it's still Blake Lively's fault because she's hot? Are you okay? Is your brain all right? What the fuck are you saying? You believe harassment took place off what evidence? Literally. The only reason why it took, well, two reasons. One, not just that I believe it, Justin Baldoni's own PR team believes it as well. Justin Baldoni himself also knows that there were claims that were being made against him. Okay? And not only that, but also the fact that the entirety of the fucking cast and crew have basically sided with Blake Lively. I've said that already. There's no way to know there's no way to accurately identify these claims until it is taken to court, and then there are additional witnesses that are called up to validate said claims. The only thing you can do is look at not just the legal writing, because all lawyers, as I said, including Blake Lively's legal team and Justin Baldoni's legal team, are always going to write the worst possible way about their about their opponents, and write in the best possible terms about their clients. I like that I gave you the reasons why I believe Blake Lively's claims, including but not limited to the fact that Justin Baldoni also personally admitted to having a conversation about some of the claims that Blake Lively had made, and also the very fact that cast and crew had chosen to side with Blake Lively over Justin Baldoni. And your fucking counter is Blake Lively's opinion. Blake Lively's vibes are off. And also simultaneously you said Blake Lively's hotness made Justin Baldoni into a fucking creep. That is crazy, chatter. You're being a little weird, okay? Cass sided with her because of money. Yeah, this sexy bitch, this sexy whore with her temptress ways. We should sink Blake Lively. We should fucking see if she floats. We should fucking strap a goddamn heavy rock around her waist and see if she sinks. If she dies, then, you know, oops, our bad. If she floats, she's a witch. The fuck? I'm saying you believe he could be a creep because Lively is attractive. I don't even find Blake Lively attractive. What the fuck are you talking about? I don't give a fuck about Blake Lively. And also, I'm the one who said she's fucking annoying. Not a menace on set, but that she's fucking annoying. And also on top of that, literally marketed the domestic violence movie in the worst way possible. Okay? And that's the reason why RAFM said I was a fucking misogynistic atom bomb. I was Hiroshima and misogyn. Okay? You, on the other hand, seemingly are that, which is crazy.
Approval over the general look of their on-screen character, this authority typically does not include full control over wardrobe decisions without input from the director and producers. Nevertheless, Lively overstepped these boundaries, sidelining the production's costume designer, a seasoned professional with a long-standing working relationship with Lively. Ignoring the director's vision for her character and disregarding the weeks spent by the entire team shopping and thoughtfully crafting her wardrobe in preparation for filming, Lively would send hundreds of images to the film's costume designer during all hours of the evening, pointing them in the direction of the appearance she wanted for her character. The costume designer then had to reshop her wardrobe, far exceeding the allocated budget and diverting time and resources. At one point, Lively insisted that
Wow, I can't believe she did that. It's really messed up.
her character had money and could afford $5,000 shoes, which had Baldoni rethinking the entire script that had been worked on for well over a year and had been approved by both studios. Lively also several times refused to participate in wardrobe fittings at the production office, a mere 15 minutes away from Lively's Tribeca residence. Instead, she insisted the costume department pack up the wardrobe department and deliver all her wardrobe items to her, loading the wardrobe department on trucks and delivering them to Lively's residence for fittings. Added both times.
Okay, now this is the grasping at straw stuff. Like, yes, to the outside world, when people look at this, they go, wow, what a diva. But if you are even remotely aware of how production works at this magnitude, at this, yeah, she is a diva. But like, you know, this is fairly normal in general. But again, it's just slamming on additional irrelevant stuff to portray, Blake Lively as just like a bad person, a diva, annoying. None of it is relevant to the initial claims being made. They're baiting you, Hasan, shifting your focus away from the issue to make it seem like you're bashing Blake more than you're defending her. Oh, yeah, I don't really care. I mean, dude. If you want to do that, I give plenty of examples for you to do that, okay? Go off. You can gear up the most mentally ill Twitter accounts and TikTok accounts and get them to be upset about anything with the highest degree, with the highest severity, okay? With the highest intensity.
To the production schedule and expense to the film. Two things productions work hard to avoid with careful planning. These demands were never mentioned at the contract negotiation phase and therefore were not included in the budget. Lively herself, having a further obligation to the studios as an executive producer, paid no mind to the budget and the months of planning that had already occurred. Even if Lively had the contractual authority to approve her character's wardrobe, which she did not, a grant of such authority would not and could not imply the right to blow up the film's budget with additional unanticipated.
Son, why you call yourself pro-Palestine when you drink, you eat, and not fast in Ramadan, and you use charity funds to buy yourself a house? What? I mean, I do drink and I eat and not fast in Ramadan, but this last one is the most insane thing. It's illegal. Like, I would be in jail. What you're describing is fraud. I would never do such a thing, but also simultaneously, this is straight up illegal. Where are you even getting this? Okay, I'm done. I'm done with this. I'm done with this bait. Let's keep going.
Costs. In an effort to maintain harmony at the start of their working relationship and to avoid further delays caused by wardrobe conflicts, Baldoni and the studio reluctantly allowed Lively full control over her wardrobe. This concession quickly proved regrettable. On the first day of principal photography, paparazzi captured and published photos of Lively in character wearing her self-selected wardrobe. These images were described as unflattering and sparked a backlash from the film's distributor, Sony. Baldoni received direct criticism from Sony, who voiced concerns about the impact of the photos on the film's public perception. Because if you guys remember, when these first photos came out of them filming this movie, everyone thought that her outfits were not it at all. It is also alleged in the complaint that despite—
Yeah, the wardrobe is ass. Arrest me, officer. That looks ass. This is clearly relevant for context to speak to the control and strength she had within production, which means a lot in these settings. Okay, first of all, like, it's the wardrobe that she's wearing. When you are, it is technically not, under normal circumstances, if you're not Blake Lively and you're like a random actor who's just getting their start, you're not going to be able to have these kinds of creative decisions. Okay? No way, no how. But if you think that like virtually every single large celebrity at Blake Lively's level, even lower than Blake Lively's level, and certainly higher than Blake Lively's level, make these kinds of decisions, sometimes they directly put it in the contract, other times they don't. You're crazy. The degree to which she controlled the wardrobe is not normal overall, but oftentimes in hormones. No, I was going to say, it's understandable why she would be extra attentive to the way she looked and her appearance and comments about her appearance and also her wardrobe, especially considering that, giving birth is a pretty traumatic experience overall. You do have hormones running through your body. It's not that she's like, I'm not saying that, oh, she's emotional and stupid. I'm saying that it's understandable why she would be extra attentive to certain things. You want to make and understandably, especially then partnered with the fact that she's, not the nicest and a Hollywood celebrity of a certain level. It's just like, I get why she would want to exercise this level of control over a lot of these things, especially if she also felt uncomfortable around Justin Baldoni. You know what I mean? And knowing you're going to push a watermelon out your vag is fucking stressful. Jesus Christ. One gains weight during pregnancy is normal and is her fourth child. Come on. I mean, yeah, but I think it's, 4 times or not, it's still traumatic, What is the argument here? That she loves giving birth? She's done it 3 times prior and chose to do it a 4th time. So she shouldn't feel a certain type of way. She shouldn't feel insecure about her body or anything. Oh, okay. You're agreeing with me. Not gonna lie, the 4th time really breaks your argument. Yeah. People are having fun abortions and fun pregnancies now. Don't yell at me. Do you have back issues? No, you have no idea how every little bit of weight can fuck your back up even further. First of all, I do have back issues. If she was feeling so uncomfortable, why didn't she submit a complaint to SAG-AFTRA after many actors have said that's the normal process nowadays? And they would have stopped the production for her safety. You're right. Why don't people in Hollywood immediately make formal complaints? Let's think. Why won't people make formal complaints in the workplace when they have issues? I wonder why. And like Blake Lively isn't a powerless victim here either. She does have power, but she's still a victim. Can both POV be true? Her being a diva and extra and him being a creep, but I didn't know that she just had given birth. That's crazy. Yeah. Wonder why famously in Hollywood, women don't immediately go to the institutional authorities to complain about workplace harassment or any kind of sexual harassment. It does seem like she did go directly to Justin Baldoni, though, and even brought in her high power husband into the equation. So it seems like she tried to deal with it directly. A thing that even Justin Baldoni is not saying is wrong, by the way.
Things like that. In this complaint, we hear it from the other side as it states, over the months leading up to the film's release, Lively and her collaborators consistently scrutinized interactions with Baldoni and employed tactics that fall squarely with the definition of gaslighting. This behavior pressured Sony, Baldoni, and Wayfarer into
Justin Baldoni's a rando and Blake is an iconic diva. Case closed. She's innocent. Okay, first of all, I don't care about Blake Lively at all. I'm choosing to defend her on the things that I have seen so far as her complaints and as far as the information that has been presented to me, not because I know anything about Blake Lively or give a single fuck about Blake Lively. I demonstrably don't care. I don't think I watched a single fucking thing that she's been in. Okay, calm down.
ceding control to Lively at every turn, resulting in her domination of nearly every aspect of the film's production. Lively sets the stage for coercion by drafting a protection letter that intentionally misrepresents the nature of the conversations had between Baldoni and/or Heath and Lively, demands Wayfarer parties sign for Lively to return to work after the industry strikes.
So you're saying she shouldn't be allowed to dress up like Kirsten Cinema and break that man's back? No. Oh no. She did choose Kirsten Cinema ass clothing, dude. Stop. It's fucked up.
Principal photography began May 15th, 2024. From mid-June to early November 2023, production was suspended due to the industry guild strikes. When the strikes ended on November 9, 2023, production was eager to resume filming and make up for lost time. That same day, however, Wayfarer received an unsettling and unexpected email from Lively through her counsel containing a 17-point list of non-negotiable conditions that must be met before Lively would return to work. Though Wayfarer disagreed as to the basis for requesting these conditions, which insinuated those demands were the result of inappropriate behavior by Baldoni and Heath, the terms were agreeable and some were already in place. For example, Lively demanded that an intimacy coordinator be present at all times when Lively was on set. In fact, an intimacy coordinator had already been engaged during the first half of production, so Wayfarer took no issue with this request. Contrary to Lively's assertion, it was she who refused to meet the intimacy coordinator to plan out scenes, putting Baldoni in the awkward position of meeting with the intimacy coordinator alone and later relaying scene suggestions to Lively in the intimacy coordinator's absence, not only defeating the purpose, but resulting in accusations.
I just don't know why she would file a complaint with the messages out of context that implies the PR ladies saying the opposite of what they're actually saying if the truth is on our side. Wait, what? No, the PR ladies are not saying the opposite of what they're actually saying. With the exception of like some of the messages that were like monitoring actively the anti-Blake Lively commentary, and the overarching complaint there was that, and it wasn't even that wasn't even the complaint. That was the New York Times reporting. I think you're confusing, or maybe I'm confusing it. But I think the New York Times reporting is being confused with the Blake Lively claims. The Blake Lively claims are not about the coordinated smear campaign. More so that it was initially about the workplace, the way that she was felt uncomfortable in the workplace. And I don't even think the New York Times muddled it. I read the article. I read it on stream. The important part of her complaints that I care about are not the defamation aspects, but the claims that she made about workplace harassment and how Justin Baldoni was attempting to launch a counter PR battle against her, knowing full well that those complaints existed, which have been proven by the conversations that were revealed in a separate lawsuit between Justin Baldoni's current PR team and Justin Baldoni's former PR manager. As far as like the trial awards, or as far as like the defamation campaign actually harming Blake Lively's hair care product line revenue, I don't agree with that. I even said it at that time as well. I think that's they're just doing that to put numbers on the board. It could work depending on how good one party's lawyers are over the other, but I still think that is, there has to be award in the situation that you can bargain for a lower price point if you are successful. But overall, you don't think defamation could hurt a person's business? When did you start doing YouTube Slaw? Read the article then? I did read the article. And also, no, I don't think that her hair care product was sales were harmed by the defamation.
By the Times that before shooting began, Baldoni wanted to add blank scenes that Lively considered gratuitous. In fact, these scenes were proposed by the intimacy.
Yeah, you can't prove defamation without, you have to show financial damages, yes, in order to get awarded anything from the trial. The claim says she refused to meet the intimacy coordinator, but her text then showed that she's ready to meet. Then the IC when production starts, but not before. Baldoni later told the producer she doesn't want to meet based on this text. The claim says that she refused to meet the intimacy coordinator, but her text showed that she's ready to meet the intimacy coordinator when production starts, but not before. Baldoni later told the producer she doesn't want to meet based on this text. As in, even in the claims that Baldoni is making, he's actually wrong, because in previous claims, he openly showed that Blake Lively was on board with meeting with the intimacy coordinator.
This is well documented in handwritten notes Baldoni took during meetings with the intimacy coordinator. We also hear more about the incident of Jamie Heath walking in on her unannounced. As they wrote in the complaint, in the CRD complaint published in part by The Times, Lively suggests Heath walked in her trailer unannounced while in state of undress and topless, which is false. Heath was invited into her trailer along with a female producer, Baldoni, and a Sony representative for a meeting requested by Lively. Mr. Heath arrived first to see if Lively was ready for the meeting, and after knocking and being invited in, saw that Lively was breastfeeding. She was not topless. She was having makeup removed from her collarbone while fully covered. Heath asked if they should return at a later time. Lively said no, they could move forward with the meeting as initially planned and would meet them after she finished removing makeup. Roughly 2 weeks later, Lively announced that she thought she had seen Heath make eye contact with her. Heath immediately apologized and said he hadn't even realized he looked her way, in response to which Lively remarked, "I know you weren't trying to cop a look." A reference to this incident conveniently showed up on a document months later, distorted like the others and out of context, in a list that The Times later published as fact. Now we get more into this all hands on deck meeting that occurred at Ryan and Blake's penthouse and how exactly Ryan...
It's weird that this topic brings out so much more unhinged chatters than covering genocide does. What the fuck is that? Celebrity people who are fascinated with celebrity stuff lose their minds, I think.
Reynolds berated Justin. The complaint writes, Reynolds demand...
It's crazy that like some of the defenses being launched by this counterclaim also end up giving credence to Blake Lively's claims, though. So I don't really understand how this is supposed to be. I don't understand how this is supposed to be like the damning, because we all agree that genocide is happening. JFC, no. There's plenty who don't. We banned them, though. I don't think people in this community largely care about this drama, right? I think, I don't think a lot of people care. I like covering it, even though it brings out some of the worst.
Demanded an apology to Lively for actions that were mischaracterized and demonstrably false. When Baldoni resisted apologizing for what he had not done, Reynolds became further enraged.
I think partially people also get like a little embarrassed about really being invested in this story, and then they'll moralize it. Drama, when it's sexual harassment, it's a workplace misconduct suit. Like there is sexual harassment involved in it as well, certainly. Okay. It's additionally weird because it's a story that is about domestic violence and sexual violence. But I think the way that people get like invested in it, beyond, or get passionate about it to the degree that they do, is due to celebrity intrigue. And then when you say like people get really crazy over it, over their coverage or over how others are covering it, they're doing that because like this is the one thing that they're like incredibly passionate about, not in this community in general.
Everyone, including the producer, Lively had asked production to engage, and a representative of Sony that was in attendance left that meeting in shock. The producer offered that in his 40-year career, he had never seen anyone speak to someone like that in a meeting. The Sony representative mentioned that she would often think of that meeting, and her one regret is that she didn't stop Reynolds' berating of Baldoni. The complaint goes into the list of things that Blake wanted them to sign off on in order for her to move forward with finishing the film, and we read about these things in her complaint, but in this complaint, they said on the very first page of her CRD complaint, Lively inaccurately claims that a list of 30 items was agreed upon during the meeting. This assertion is categorically false. The 30-point list is strategically positioned to appear as if it were a standalone written document. However, no such document was ever presented to Baldoni, the Wayfarer team, or to their knowledge anyone else, whether during that meeting or at any other time, and therefore could not have been agreed to. In reality, many of these items were encountered for the first time in the CRD complaint itself and included references to highly disturbing events that never occurred. The repeated use of the phrase "no more" before each demand falsely suggests that these alleged incidents had previously taken place and needed to cease. This implication is not only misleading but entirely untrue. Baldoni and Heath left the meeting deeply unsettled by the implications of Lively and Reynolds' behavior and the power dynamics at play. Faced with mounting pressure and weighing the financial implications of what shutting down a film halfway through production would mean, Wayfarer made the difficult decision to resume production and finish the film despite fear.
Damn, Baldoni seemingly is just a victim in all of this. Even when they made their complaints known to him, He was just a misunderstood guy and bravely pushed through. Thank God for Baldoni. Like,
that Lively was intentionally manipulating facts for her own gain. Now, in the complaint, Stephanie Jones, a former publicist for Wayfarer, was also mentioned as they claim she became entangled in the conflict between Blake Lively, Justin Baldoni, and Wayfarer. Despite not being mentioned in Blake's CRD complaint, Stephanie filed her own lawsuit claiming that she was swept into what she called a smear campaign and—
You're anti-Baldoni because he's Italian? Never say that. 2024 was a pivotal year for Italians. Luigi Mangione has made me eat crow. Luigi Mangione has made me go back on the various ways that I have been wrong about Italians.
I talked about this in a previous video that this was another lawsuit that Justin was facing. According to the complaint, Stephanie was let go of by Wayfarer, so she was not representing them anymore, for allegedly leaking confidential information to the Daily Mail, despite direct instruction not to. In the complaint, they believe that Stephanie played a key role in fueling the ongoing public feud between Blake and Justin.
I just want to see the rad femmes yell at you. I mean, it sucks when they do that because they get so much play and they're so good at PR. They're so good at presenting their genuine mania in a way that like is seemingly valid critique to random onlookers who are completely oblivious. Like, if you don't see the full scope of my coverage, your takeaway from Twitter would probably be like, man, Hasan is such a ginormous piece of shit and a Blake Lively hater. He loves Justin Baldoni. He wants to kiss Justin Baldoni. Are RAFMs the same as TERFs? Some of them are swerves. Yeah.
And they seem to be wording things as she wanted revenge on Justin and Wayfarer.
RAFMs have been going off on you on TikTok lately. It's pretty bad. They keep bringing up the brothel. Yeah, I know. It's just, they've never stopped. Swerves are sex work exclusionary radical feminists who, if you're pro sex work, they just eat you alive. TERFs are trans exclusionary radical feminists. I happen to be both pro trans and pro sex work, so I am the number one and a man, of course, which puts me in the worst position possible in their eyes. That's probably the reason why many of them oftentimes will put me on lists with like genuine sexual harasser, abusive, psychopathic, monstrous pieces of shit. And they'll just put me on that kill list as though like I've committed a crime or done anything that is even remotely similar to that. Yeah, genocide airs. There's a lot of exploitation in sex work. Yeah, I know. Thank you for repeating something that I also know. They will straight up call you a porn addict if you're pro sex work. I know.
They're firing her, so she forked up Jennifer Abel, who is Justin Baldoni's publicist right now. She used to work for Stephanie, but then she got fired. So they seem to be alleging that Stephanie so willingly gave up Jennifer Abel's phone with all of these text messages with the PR crisis management team because she was so upset that she got
Justin
fired.
Baldoni,
and I will say, like, how
dude,
Blake got these text messages.